What's up guys, it's Tristan Fisher aka Tap Studios, and for today's video I'm going to be showing you how I create black men hairstyles. If you haven't seen the video before where I did black women, make sure you click it somewhere in the link down below or somewhere on the screen. And not only that, in the description you'll also find a link to my brush pack. If you'd like to use the same brushes that I'll be using throughout this tutorial, make sure you go ahead, click the link, and of course I would appreciate it if you like and subscribe before we even get started here. It helps support the channel. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with this tutorial. Okay, so already here you see I have my model, I have my drawing that I'm going to be using for pretty much all the hairstyles. So if you've seen the last tutorial, you'll see that I just made one face and did different hairstyles on it. So we're going to be doing the same thing. So first hairstyle I'm going to be doing is waves. We're going to keep it simple. We already have the lineup and stuff like that, so we just fill that in. For the waves, they're basically like, what waves are, they're just curls that are brushed down. I know because I used to have waves, so we're just gonna set it up in rows basically. So, and then we're gonna go on a new layer, and I'm going to go to my hair brushes. I think I'm just gonna use hairbrush 1, so you can see. Basically just wrapping it around the head, and it's a little thinner at the sides. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. I know as artists we're perfectionists, and I forgot, because I'm drawing outside of the area that the hair is, I'm gonna make this into a clipping mask so it just locks there. There's basically your guidelines for setting up how you want the curls to be. You could have more rows or whatever, it's honestly up to you. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just gauche and blur these lines here. Just go up here to the top left. You guys should be able to see that. Adjustments, and we're gonna gauche and blur. Head and blur it a bit. Okay, there's that. So you can kind of see that although it doesn't look like much, we already kind of have a guide for where we want the hair to be. So now next we are going to make another layer, and I'm just going to start drawing in the texture, like what I call it. Yeah, I guess so, the texture of the hair. And you're just going in these straight lines. So like I said, they're just flattened down curls. So I'm just gonna do this. And it starts to curve once it gets to the side, because you know head is round, so it's wrapping around our head. So now after that, I have these lines figured out. You guys should be able to see it hopefully. And now I'm gonna go for the highlights. So to a lighter color, and now basically the same thing, basically what we just did, except you don't even need to necessarily do the streaks. You could either do the streaks like what I was just doing, or you could go like this. Might be a little messier, but whatever works for you. I feel like some artists, we tend to make messy look nice sometimes, and mind you, I'm trying to, or I should be at least, let me move it up a bit. The highlights are kind of at the top of each row. Now that you have something like this, I'm gonna move on to the fade. We're not done at the top yet, but you should have something like this. So when fading out the hair, you can either, 1, erase it, or 2, select your skin tone. We're just gonna go ahead and select the skin tone, so make a new layer, go back to the clipping mask. Just get an airbrush. I'm gonna go to my soft blur. Basically just painting in the skin tone. Like so. And you see it's like a fade. I did a little too much, so but that's okay. I'm going to my eraser and erase a little bit where the hairline is, and then I'm gonna go with the final highlights at the top. Let's go back to clipping mask. We're gonna just get our white color. I'm gonna do lights around the entire head because this is just a white background, you know, so just gonna do that. And what I'll do is I'm gonna give him like a line. Let's see if it looks good. If it doesn't look good, we won't do it. Right, and there you have our first hairstyle. Let's move on to hairstyle number 2. Okay, hairstyle number 2, we're going to be doing freeform dreads. They're not really going to be organized and parted. It's going to be just sort of random. So let's go ahead and get started. We have the flat tone here for the color, and then we're going to go a layer above. We're going to set up how you want the dreads to be. And we want to think about the back, the middle, and the foreground. So first, I'm gonna start off with sort of like the middle area, the front, the fork.
Have you ever had a dream that you
Let's go ahead. And these are supposed to be messy, which is gonna be a challenge for me because I'm used to trying to make everything so like perfect. Okay, so we got these ones in the front. We're gonna create another layer and basically do the sides. Okay, it looks really ugly right now. Let's trust the process. We are going to start adding some more texture in the hair. Just go ahead and grab my loose curly fro or any of my fro brushes. So now under the dreads, we're gonna work on the messier area in the head. Clipping mask, of course. And basically just add in a darker tone. Go, and it's going to be lighter at the top because the light source, of course. Let's not worry about that yet. Then I can go even darker. It's kind of just random, you know. Things like this, like stuff like hair, stuff like nature, like there's certain things where you can have a reference, but you don't have to go exact because it doesn't matter. As long as it just looks like what you're trying to draw. Now, let's add some dreads in the back, because the back of the head, there will be some dreads. So for this, I'm honestly gonna have to go under everything, even like the model. So I have my layer here you see for the model. I'm gonna have to just go under that and do the same thing. These dreads are also going to be darker because they're behind the head. Okay, so those are the ones in the back. I'm gonna adjust these a bit to make them longer. Let's just push them out. The way I'm adjusting it is I'm going up to the adjustments here at the top left, you see, and then going to liquefy at the very bottom there, and then we're on push. So like I said in my last tutorial about the hairstyles, what I'll do is I'll push things around if they're bothering me. The dreads, of course, need shadows behind them. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take these dreads that I have in the front and the middle here, these two layers you see, and I'm gonna duplicate them. So let's go ahead and duplicate this one. We're gonna select our duplicate. So click it, select, and change it to a darker color. So I'm gonna go to like a brown, I guess. And then basically gonna set it to, you could have just left it at the brown, but I'm gonna set it to multiply 2. And then we're just gonna Gaussian blur. Move it slightly and turn it down. Then same for this one here. We're gonna get our duplicate, select it, fill, multiply. And sorry if I'm moving a bit fast. I tend to do that sometimes. I'm gonna Gaussian blur the hairline here. I feel like the hairline's a little too sharp for this look that I have. So I'm just gonna Gaussian blur it slightly. This part I'm going to start adding in the final details, so a layer above everything else to blend in where the dreads are so it looks more believable. We're gonna get that same color, and on a new layer above it all, I'm gonna go to my thin hair brush, and I'm gonna start just, you know, just adding in streaks to connect it, to make it believable. So you have a bit of that up there. Now I'm gonna get another layer, and we're gonna add in some highlights. Okay, got those highlights. I want to add more shading under. I feel like there's not enough. Add some more in there. Now where the hairline is, I'm gonna go to my smudge tool, and then I'm gonna go to my brushes and click the hair smudge one. Smudge this out, because it looks too perfect. And then another thing I'm gonna do for the shadows, or I mean the messiness in the where the scalp area is, go to another layer, clipping mask again, and I'm gonna go to my hair brushes, this texture brush at the top, and then I'm gonna go with maybe closer to the brown, sort of just get that in there at the bottom, some areas. Lastly, at the top, I want to have some more highlights. So what I'm going to do, since I have this hairstyle on a group, if I just shorten the group by clicking that arrow there at the side, you see how I collapse it? I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to flatten the duplicate. And then I'm going to select it. Now basically, I have the hair selected in the front. This is not the hair in the back though, mind you. So I have the hair selected in the front. We're gonna turn it off there. Now on a new layer, I'm gonna go ahead and add the lighting to it. And you see it missed that one there because, you know, it's in the back. And now I'm going to add some facial hair. I'm gonna go to my brushes and click hairbrush 2. Kind of want to just flick. Make sure you're flicking. You don't want to do like this. That's not how hair grows, or at least my hair doesn't go like that. So you want to just this, just flicking. And then just to add some more, this is when I start to curl at the bottom. Just to give it some more volume, you know. Great, and that's it for hairstyle number 2. Let's move on to hairstyle number 3. Now for hairstyle number 3, I think I'm gonna go with a curly fro. I'm gonna try and replicate what I have, try and get the same color. We have our base here, as usual. On a layer above it, I'm gonna go down to my curly fro brushes. We're just gonna get this shape. And don't mind if you go over the hairline a bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the base where we have our hairline. Select. We're going to click invert at the bottom. So now we have this part selected. Now go back to the curls we just drew, get an eraser, and just clean up here, right here. There we go. And then I can either just continue to draw on the shape or just liquefy to move it around a bit. On a new layer, we're gonna go and click clipping mask. And now this is the part where I'm going to add in the color. So kind of orange, brick redish, somewhere around there. No, I wanna go more darker. And we're basically just gonna put in like these little spots. And then I'm gonna go and erase a bit here, erase it, just so it looks like it's blending a bit more. Just I feel like I went a little too intense down there where the fade is supposed to be. On a new layer, we're gonna go with the hairbrushes. Basically work on the outer edge. Let's maybe turn the color up a bit. And now I'm gonna start doing my own little swirls. So let me zoom in for you guys. Basically just curling out. Now time for the fade. I'm gonna go to where I have the fro and the base. I'm just gonna merge them together. And then on a new layer, you see I already have it. Just creating a new layer here. And I'm gonna start using my texture brush here. I'm gonna start hitting in for just a slight fade. Final layer of highlights at the top. I'm gonna duplicate our group here. I'm gonna flatten it. Then I'm gonna select it. Turn it off. New layer. Now let's do some facial hair as well. Okay, now that's it for hairstyle number 3. Let's move on to hairstyle number 4. Okay, so for hairstyle number 4, we're going to be doing single braids. So to start off, I'm going to go on a new layer above our base. And just select like a skin tone, maybe. Yeah. And then we're going to figure out basically our grid for the parting of the hair. You know how like some hairstyles, they'll have like the hairline in the front and then the braids start a little bit back. I think I'm gonna attempt that. And we're gonna Gaussian blur it. And then let's take our base. Let's put the opacity down a bit. On new layer. Let's go with one of our hairbrushes. Let's grab black. Basically, just start making hair streaks that go towards the center of these shapes, each one of these shapes. Okay, so and then you should have something like this. Now to get started with the braids, I'm going to go on a new layer and using my braid 2 brush, I'm gonna go ahead and start adding in the braids. So there's not a lot of braids to this type of hairstyle I have here that you're gonna see in the front. The rest would be in the back, but for the side we want to get those ones showing. So let's make a layer under that and then do the same thing. And then let's do some in the back. So I have to go behind the model and let's add some in the back. Now we have something like this. From here, what I want to do is actually fill in the color of the braids, because you can see like they're not colored in, they're see-through. So we're gonna go ahead and go to one of the layers with the braids. Click that button at the top left and make sure it's on automatic. Basically just drag on the screen on the outside of the braids and then click invert at the bottom. Now you'll see it highlights the braids themselves. Go back to your layers, create a new layer under the outline of the braids, and then let's go to like just gray. You don't want to go pitch black. Then you could just tap the layer and then click fill layer, and then you can see they're filled here. So we're just gonna do that for all of them. So let's continue. And also what you'll notice, sometimes it won't fill it perfectly. You see those little spaces. What you can just do is just fill, like color those areas in yourself. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And with the braids, we want them to sort of taper at the bottom. Sometimes they'll successfully taper, see how it gets small at the very ends of the braids. Sometimes it will do that using the brushes, and sometimes it won't. So I'm gonna show you in a second how to fix that. We're gonna use our liquefy tool. So I'm gonna go to these ones in the back specifically for now. Let's just select the back braids. I'm gonna go to the adjustments, liquefy, and then down to pinch. So here we're basically just gonna pinch the ends of them so they're thinner, like that. And we can push it. And same for this side. And you'll see, if you already watched my tutorial on Black Women Hairstyles, you'll see I'm basically doing the same methods, the exact same methods, just on men and different hairstyles, of course. We're gonna go back on that layer where the part is. We're gonna get our hair smudge brush, and then I'm just gonna go like this, just smudge it so it looks more natural. Okay, next we're gonna work on some texture in the the fade and stuff. So let's go where our base is. Let's create a new layer under the hairline, so between those two layers. And then I'm gonna go to my texture brush here and then just shade in here. See, get some texture. And then I'm gonna create another layer on top to do the fade. Okay, next I'm gonna do the shadows under the braids. Just duplicate, turn it to multiply, and then you can Gaussian blur. Then even move it over a bit if you want, and then turn the opacity down. I forgot to mention that also pinch these areas if you'd like, so it can look more natural. Like you see here, it doesn't really look like it's going in the hair, so I can move those areas over a bit, the push tool, and then also pinching them as well. Okay, now next let's add in some highlights. So on top of everything, I'm gonna get my thin-haired brush. And of course, you can add in highlights here as well. This is a personal choice. Sometimes I don't do it when I'm feeling lazy, to be honest, but it's totally up to you. I want to give him some color in the braids, so I'm gonna basically go down to the part where we added in the fill color, so that gray, and just on a new layer or the same layer if you'd like, do clipping mask, and we're gonna go with like red. So just get any brush really to fill in that red color. Okay, now that's it for our fourth hairstyle. Let's move on to hairstyle number 5. Okay, so for hairstyle number 5, we're gonna go with a messy fro. Start off with the base, like all the other hairstyles, and then on a layer above it, let's go ahead and start making out the shape for the fro. So I'm gonna use this puff brush I have here. And then we're going to select our base, invert it, go to the fro, and erase this area. Now, like always, let's do the fade. So I'm going to merge. I just merged the base with the furrow, might as well. On a new layer, we're gonna do clipping mask. For the highlights, I'm gonna go back to my puff brush. And then basically just do these little dots. We're gonna put the opacity down a bit. And grab our eraser and erase some areas. And actually, I want it to be a little bit more brown in the hair, so add some more of that. Then lastly, the top layer for the highlights. And then let's do a beard. Okay, and that's it for hairstyle number 5. Let's do our final and last hairstyle. Okay, so for this last hairstyle, we're gonna go for something fairly simple. It's gonna be a flat top. So to get started, we're just gonna get in that basic shape. So any brush really, I'm gonna go ahead and draw in just that straight flat top. Okay, so here's our shape. Once we have our shape down, I'm just gonna merge our new shape with the original base. So you should have something like this. And then I'm gonna go in and start off with the fade. So new layer, clipping mask. And then same old, go to our texture. With that same brush, we're gonna use the texture brush, new layer, clipping mask. And get that highlight at the top and the sides. I feel like this looks too plain. Maybe perhaps I can add some color. Maybe a green, I don't know. And now we're done the last hairstyle, which means we are done the tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see next and which hairstyle was your favorite. And also don't forget, if you check the description below, you'll find the link to the brush pack and also the link to the last video where we did Black Women Hairstyles. But make sure you guys like and subscribe to support the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.